Mrs. Prescott, we're here to move you. The man standing on my front porch said it as casually as if I'd ordered groceries, but behind him a white moving truck filled half my driveway, its rear doors already open and a metal ramp resting on the pavement. I stared at him for a moment, one hand still wrapped around my coffee mug. I'm sorry, I said. Move me where? He glanced down at the clipboard in his hand. Oak Meadow Senior Living. We have you listed for an 8:30 pickup. My name was there. Elaine Prescott. My address was there. Even my phone number was there. The only problem was that I had never called a moving company, never signed a contract, and never agreed to leave the home where I'd lived for nearly 34 years. I was 72, not confused. I knew exactly where I lived, and I knew exactly where I planned to sleep that night. The man looked up again. His expression changed when he saw my face. Ma'am, did you schedule this? Before I could answer, an SUV turned onto my street and pulled in behind the moving truck. My son Derek stepped out first. If you enjoy family betrayal stories, hidden wills, and mothers who finally receive justice, subscribe to EverNest Stories. More powerful stories are coming every day. My daughter-in-law, Monica, climbed out from the passenger side holding 2 large coffees as if this were any ordinary Tuesday morning. Derek wouldn't look at me. Monica did. She gave me the small, careful smile she used whenever she was about to explain something she had already decided. Good, they're here, she said. Then she held out one of the coffees. We wanted to make this easy for you. I set my mug on the porch railing. Make what easy? Monica looked toward Derek, but he kept his eyes on the driveway. The move, Elaine. Oak Meadow is beautiful. We toured it last week. They have a garden, a dining room, activities, everything you need. Everything I needed. I looked past her at the truck. 2 movers were pulling folded blankets and dollies from the back. Another man was checking boxes stacked near the ramp. Apparently everyone knew I was moving except me. You toured it last week? I asked. Without me. Monica sighed softly, almost patiently. We knew you'd make this harder than it needed to be. That sentence settled over the porch more heavily than anything she had said before. The man with the clipboard shifted his weight. Mrs. Prescott, he said, I need to confirm something before my crew starts. Are these your belongings inside the house? Yes. And do you authorize us to remove them today? Monica stepped forward. I arranged everything. I'm the family contact. He didn't look at her. He kept his eyes on me. Ma'am. I looked at my son. Derek finally raised his head, but only for a second. Mom, it's for the best, he said quietly. I turned back to the mover. No, I do not authorize anyone to remove anything from my house. He closed the clipboard. Then he turned toward his crew. Nobody touches a thing. Monica's smile disappeared. Excuse me. The customer is present, he said evenly. She's telling us she didn't approve the move. We stop here. Monica began talking about deposits, schedules, and wasted time, but I barely heard her. Because through the open hatch of her SUV, I could see a stack of printed labels resting on top of several empty boxes. Storage. Donation. Oak Meadow. And beneath them, one label that made me forget about the moving truck entirely. Estate sale. That was the moment I understood something I hadn't understood when I opened the door. My family wasn't simply trying to move me somewhere else. They had already started making plans for what would happen to my home after I was gone. 10 days earlier, nothing about Derek and Monica's behavior had seemed dangerous. If anything, I had been grateful for the attention. It started after I slipped on a damp patch of grass near the back steps while carrying a basket of laundry. I did not fall hard. I caught myself against the railing, twisted my ankle slightly, and sat on the porch for a few minutes until the ache faded. Sheila Monroe, my neighbor across the street, happened to see me and came over. By that evening, Derek knew. He called twice, which was unusual. The next morning, he and Monica arrived with groceries, a new non-slip mat for the back door, and the kind of concern that makes. You feel guilty for saying you are fine. Mom, you live alone, Derek said as he checked the smoke detectors. We are allowed to worry. I smiled because that sounded reasonable. Monica put milk, eggs, soup, and fresh fruit into my refrigerator. She even brought the cinnamon coffee cake I liked from a bakery near South Park. For months, our visits had been rushed. Suddenly they had time. Monica stayed after Derek left for work and helped me sort through a hallway closet I had been meaning to clean for years. "You have so much stuff, Elaine," she said, laughing lightly. "We should organize things before it becomes overwhelming." At the time I heard kindness in that sentence. Now I hear preparation. She asked which dishes mattered most to me, which furniture had belonged to my parents, whether I still used the guest bedroom upstairs. She measured the width of my china cabinet and wrote something in her phone. When I asked why, she said she was thinking about better storage options. 2 days later, Derek stopped by alone. He replaced a burned-out bulb over the garage, tightened the loose handle on my kitchen faucet, then sat across from me at the table. "Do you still have that power of attorney paperwork from your surgery?" he asked. 4 years earlier, before a routine procedure, I had signed documents allowing Derek to handle certain matters if I could not. I had recovered quickly and never thought about those papers again. "Probably in the file cabinet," I said. "Why?" He shrugged. "Just making sure everything is organized. You know, emergency planning." Another reasonable answer. That was what made it easy to accept. Every question came wrapped in concern. Every intrusion had a practical explanation. Monica returned the following weekend carrying a roll of small adhesive labels. She opened closets, photographed shelves, and asked me to stand beside pieces of furniture while she took measurements. "For future planning," she kept saying. I remember watching her measure the living room sofa while sunlight came through the front windows. My late husband, Thomas, had picked that sofa with me 12 years earlier. We had argued over the color for 20 minutes and laughed about it all the way home. Monica ran the tape measure across the cushions and entered the numbers into her phone. I thought she was helping me simplify my life. I did not notice that she never once asked whether I wanted my life simplified. Looking back, there were signs everywhere. The measurements, the photographs, the questions about paperwork. Derek asking where I kept the deed. Monica casually wondering what my property taxes were each year. Each detail had seemed too small to challenge on its own. Together, they formed something entirely different. But 10 days earlier, sitting in my own kitchen with coffee cake on the counter, and my family behaving more thoughtfully than they had in months, I mistook organization for affection. I had no idea they were not helping me prepare for the future. They were preparing my future without me. Back on the porch, the words estate sale sat on that white label like something that did not belong in my life. I looked at Monica, then at Derek, but neither of them volunteered an explanation. Graham remained beside me with his clipboard closed against his chest while the rest of the moving crew waited near the truck. Nobody moved. Nobody touched a single box. Monica finally stepped toward the open back of her sport utility vehicle and lowered the hatch halfway, as though hiding the labels might somehow make them disappear. "Those are just organizational stickers," she said. "For sorting." I kept my voice even. "Why would my things need an estate sale sticker?" Derek rubbed one hand over the back of his neck. "Mom, we were going to explain everything once you got settled." There it was again. Once I got settled. Not if I decided to move. Not after we discussed it. Once. The decision had already been made in their minds. I stepped down from the porch and walked toward Monica's vehicle. She moved slightly in front of it. "Elaine, this is getting blown out of proportion." I stopped. "Then move aside and let me see the labels." For several seconds she did nothing. Then Derek quietly said, "Monica." She stepped away. I counted 4 stacks. Oak Meadow. Storage. Donation. Estate sale. Each stack was neatly printed, cut, and arranged by category. This was not a plan they had created that morning. Someone had spent time preparing it. Sheila Monroe appeared at the edge of my driveway before I could ask another question. She was still wearing the pale blue gardening gloves she used every morning. "Elaine, is everything all right?" she asked. Monica answered before I could. "Everything is fine, Sheila. We are helping Elaine move." Sheila looked at the truck, then at me. "You are moving?" "Apparently." Her expression changed. "That is strange." Monica stiffened. "What is?" Sheila pulled off one glove finger by finger. "Because 3 days ago, a woman was taking pictures of this house." The driveway went silent. I turned toward her. "What woman?" "I thought maybe you were having insurance work done," Sheila said. She had a clipboard and one of those laser measuring devices. She photographed the front, the side yard, and the back patio. I saw her looking through the front windows too. Derek stared at Monica. It was brief, but I caught it. A look that said more than words. Did she speak to you? I asked Sheila. Only when I asked if she needed help. She said she had an appointment regarding the property. Monica picked up one of the coffee cups from the roof of her vehicle even though she had not taken a sip. This is ridiculous. We were gathering information. That is all. Information for what? I asked. She looked at Derek again. For options. Graham shifted beside me. Mrs. Prescott, before we leave, there is one thing you should probably see. He opened his clipboard and removed the first page of the moving order. The booking notes were submitted by the person who scheduled the job. Monica's face tightened. Graham pointed to a line near the bottom. I read it slowly. Home to be cleared before realtor walkthrough. I did not say anything for several seconds. I simply looked at the house behind me, at the brick steps Thomas had repaired himself, at the front windows we had chosen together, at the maple tree we planted the spring Derek turned 13. Then I looked at my son. There is a realtor coming to my house? Derek opened his mouth, but Monica answered. Elaine, please try to understand. We were only planning ahead. I folded the moving order carefully and handed it back to Graham. For the first time that morning, I understood that the truck was not the beginning of their plan. It was somewhere in the middle. Graham asked the crew to wait by the truck while he reviewed the paperwork again. Monica stood with her arms folded, tapping one finger against her coffee cup. Derek looked as though he wanted the morning to end without having to say anything else. I wanted the opposite. I wanted every detail spoken clearly. Graham turned one page, then another. The booking was made online, he said. The customer name is Elaine Prescott, but the person listed as the authorized family representative is Monica Prescott. I looked at Monica. Authorized by whom? She exhaled slowly. Elaine, we already explained this. Derek has handled things for you before. Derek finally stepped forward. Mom, after your surgery, you signed paperwork giving me power of attorney. We thought that covered situations like this. Situations like moving me out of my house without asking? He looked toward the sidewalk. That is not what I meant. Graham raised one hand slightly. I cannot interpret legal documents for anyone. That is not my job. My job is simpler. These belongings belong to Mrs. Prescott. She is standing here telling me not to remove them. My crew is not loading anything. Monica's voice sharpened. We paid a deposit. We reserved this truck for the whole morning. You can discuss the charges with the office, Graham said. But that does not change what she just told me. I noticed something then. Monica was not frightened that I might be confused. She was frustrated that I was interfering. That difference mattered. May I see the original booking information? I asked. Graham nodded and showed me the first page again. Monica's name appeared under the contact section. Her email address. Her phone number. Under special instructions, the notes were unusually specific. Main bedroom furniture to Oak Meadow. Dining set to storage. Garage items to donation. Remaining household contents to be evaluated after clearance. My home had been reduced to categories before anyone had bothered to ask me what I wanted to keep. Derek stepped beside me. Mom, please. We were trying to save you from having to deal with all this. I turned to him. All what? He hesitated. The house. The upkeep. Decisions. My decisions? He had no answer. Monica placed her coffee on the hood of the sport utility vehicle. You make everything sound sinister when it is practical. This place is too much for one person. The stairs, the yard, the maintenance. We were trying to get ahead of a problem. You mean get ahead of me? Her face tightened. Graham quietly removed a copy of the work order from a folder. Mrs. Prescott, I can give you the customer copy since your name is on the order. Monica immediately said, that paperwork belongs to us. Graham looked at her. Her name is on the move. He handed it to me. I folded it once and carried it inside. I did not slam the door. I did not argue. I placed the paper on my kitchen table beside the coffee I had forgotten to finish. From the window, I watched Monica speaking rapidly to Derek while Graham called his office. The crew began putting the moving blankets back into the truck. Within 15 minutes, the ramp was folded away. Before Graham left, he came to the door one last time. "Mrs. Prescott, you may want to review whatever authority someone believes they have before another company shows up." "I will," I said. After the truck pulled away, Derek and Monica stayed in the driveway. I watched them from behind the curtain. For 10 days they had asked questions about my files, my furniture, my taxes, and my house. I had answered because they were family. Now I had a piece of paper proving that while they were asking me small questions, they had been making very large decisions. I picked up my phone, walked to the dining room, and searched for a number I had not called in nearly 2 years. Janet Holloway, the attorney who had handled Thomas's estate. This time I was going to ask the questions. I found Janet Holloway's number in the contacts on my phone and stared at it for a few seconds before pressing call. She answered on the 4th ring. "Elaine." Her voice was exactly as I remembered it, calm and measured. "It has been a while." "I know," I said. "I think I need your help." I told her about the moving truck, the labels, the realtor note, and Derek's claim that the power of attorney from my surgery gave him the right to make decisions for me. Janet did not interrupt. When I finished, she asked one question. "Have you signed anything recently?" "No." "Good. Do not sign anything now. Do not argue with them about the documents either. Send me a copy of the moving order and everything you still have from the surgery." I went to the file cabinet in Thomas's old study. The room still smelled faintly of cedar from the shelves he had built himself. I found the folder marked medical and legal, along with the old power of attorney. I scanned each page and sent them to Janet. Then I photographed the moving order Graham had given me. Less than an hour later, Janet called back. "Elaine, the old document is narrower than Derek seems to believe. It was created for a specific period, when you might have been unable to manage certain matters after surgery. You recovered. More importantly, you are fully capable of making your own decisions now." I sat at the dining table and looked toward the front windows. So he cannot just move me somewhere? Not because he wants to, and not because he thinks it is convenient. Janet asked me to check my email for anything from Oak Meadow. First I found nothing. Then I searched the name in my trash folder. There it was. A confirmation message had been sent 6 days earlier, then deleted. A reservation fee had been placed under my name with Monica listed as the primary contact. My stomach tightened, but I kept reading. The move-in date was that morning. The room number had already been assigned. "Janet," I said quietly, "they had a room waiting for me. Forward that to me." I did. Then another email appeared in the search results. This one came from a real estate office in Charlotte. The subject line mentioned preliminary property review. I had never contacted them. The message thanked Monica for providing exterior photographs and asked whether the owner would be available for a walkthrough after the home was cleared. I read the sentence twice. The home was cleared. Not if. After. Janet stayed silent while I told her what I had found. Then she said, "Elaine, I want you to stop searching for a moment and listen to me. We are going to document this carefully. We are also going to make sure no one can represent you without your express permission." She explained that she would prepare a formal revocation of any remaining authority under the old power of attorney and notify the relevant parties in writing. She also told me to change the passwords on my financial accounts, utilities, and email, and to review who was listed as my emergency contact. "Do you think they can sell the house?" I asked. "Not simply because they made plans. The house is yours. But the fact that they were arranging a realtor visit without your knowledge means we should take this seriously." I looked at the moving order again. For most of the morning, I had felt as though events were moving faster than I could understand them. Now the pace changed. I took out a yellow legal pad and wrote down every date I could remember. Monica measuring the furniture. Derek asking about the power of attorney. The woman Sheila saw photographing the house. The deleted emails. The moving truck. For the first time that day, I did not feel confused. I felt organized. Derek and Monica had been planning quietly because they assumed I would not notice until everything was already done. They had mistaken my trust for permission. Those were not the same thing. By late afternoon, Janet had started following the trail beyond the moving company, and every call seemed to uncover another decision that had been made in my name. She contacted the real estate office first. The agent, a woman named Carol Benson, was polite but cautious when Janet explained that I had not authorized any sale preparation. Carol confirmed that Monica had reached out the previous week and asked how quickly my house could be listed once I was no longer living there. She had provided photographs of the exterior, basic information about the property, and an estimate of the square footage. She had also asked whether a walkthrough could be scheduled. Immediately after the furniture was removed, did she tell them I wanted to sell? I asked when Janet called me back. She told them the family was preparing the property and that you were transitioning to senior living, Janet said. That wording matters. I wrote it down on my legal pad. Transitioning. Such a soft word for something I had never agreed to do. Janet's next call was to Oak Meadow. Their records showed that Monica had described herself as the family member coordinating my care. She had told them I was becoming overwhelmed by household decisions and would benefit from having relatives handle the arrangements. I stared at the kitchen clock while Janet read the notes to me. I had balanced my own checkbook that morning. I had driven myself to the grocery store 3 days earlier. I still volunteered twice a month at the public library. Yet somewhere in someone else's records, I had already been turned into a woman who could not manage her own life. Did they ever speak to me? I asked. Not according to what they provided. Monica was the contact. That answer hurt more than I expected. Not because of Oak Meadow. They had acted on the information they were given. What hurt was realizing how carefully Derek and Monica had created a version of me that made their choices sound reasonable. Later, Sheila came over with a casserole dish she claimed she needed returned, though we both knew she had come to check on me. I told her about the realtor. She sat quietly for a moment then said, Elaine, I think that was the woman I saw. She remembered part of the license plate because the first 3 letters matched her granddaughter's initials. I wrote that down too. When Janet compared Sheila's description with the real estate office, it fit. The woman had not wandered onto my property by accident. She had been there because Monica had arranged it. Then another detail surfaced. Janet forwarded me an email from a local contractor who had been asked for a rough estimate to repaint the interior and update the kitchen before a possible listing. The request had come from Derek's email address. I read his message slowly. He had written that the house would likely be vacant soon and that the family wanted to prepare quickly. Soon. Again, not maybe. Not if Mom decides. Soon. I walked through the downstairs rooms with my legal pad in my hand. The dining room where Thomas and I hosted Thanksgiving for 27 years. The den where Derek did his homework as a teenager. The kitchen Monica apparently thought needed updating for buyers I had never agreed to meet. The plan was suddenly simple enough to see. Move me first. Empty the house. Bring in the realtor. Make the property ready. Then present everything as finished, sensible, and too far along to reverse. They were not counting on my agreement. They were counting on my exhaustion. Janet told me not to contact either of them yet. Let them believe the moving company was the only problem, she said. So I did. I changed passwords. I gathered documents. I wrote down dates. I kept every email. By evening, the yellow legal pad beside me no longer looked like notes from a confused mother. It looked like a map. And for the first time I could see exactly where they had been trying to take me. 3 days passed before I invited Derek and Monica back to the house. I chose Sunday evening because that was when they used to come for dinner before visits became something squeezed between errands and appointments. I set the dining table for 3, but I did not cook. There was only coffee, a pitcher of water, and the yellow legal pad beside my chair. Janet had told me she could come if I wanted her there. I asked her to wait until I called. At 6:15, Derek and Monica arrived together. Monica carried a bakery box as though sugar could make the conversation easier. We brought your favorite lemon bars, she said. I thanked her and left the box unopened on the counter. Derek sat across from me. Monica took the chair beside him. For a few seconds nobody spoke. Then Monica smiled carefully. Elaine, we know Tuesday got out of hand. We never meant for you to feel pressured. I looked at her. Why was a realtor scheduled after the movers? The smile disappeared. Derek shifted in his chair. Monica answered first. We were exploring options. Why were my belongings labeled for an estate sale? Those labels were only possibilities. Why was Oak Meadow told that I needed help making decisions? Derek looked at Monica, then back at me. Mom, nobody said you cannot make decisions. I reached for the legal pad and read one sentence I had copied from Oak Meadow's record. Family reports that Elaine is becoming overwhelmed by household decisions and will benefit from relatives coordinating the transition. Derek lowered his eyes. Monica folded her hands tightly. That was just wording, she said. They needed information for the reservation. A reservation I did not make. Neither of them answered. I continued. A realtor photographed my house. A contractor was asked about painting and updating the kitchen. A moving company was told the house needed to be cleared before a walkthrough. What part of that was supposed to be discussed with me? Monica leaned forward. You are taking every detail and making it sound worse than it was. This house is too much for you. We were trying to solve a problem before something happened. What problem? You live alone. You slipped in the yard. You have stairs. The yard needs work. You cannot keep doing everything forever. Her words were calm, but I finally heard what had been underneath them all along. They were not describing my life. They were building an argument for taking control of it. I looked at Derek. Did you agree with all of this? He rubbed his palms together once and stared at the table. I thought it would be easier. For whom? He did not answer. Monica sighed. Elaine, you would have resisted every step if we had asked first. We knew that. The room became very quiet. I turned to Derek. Is that true? He looked at me then. His face seemed older than it had a week earlier. We thought you would fight less if it was already done. I did not move. I did not raise my voice. I simply let the sentence sit between us. They had known I would say no. That was why they had removed the question. I closed the legal pad. Thank you, I said. Monica frowned. For what? For finally saying it plainly. Derek straightened. Mom, that is not what I meant. It is exactly what you meant. I stood and walked toward the hallway. There is someone else joining us. A moment later, Janet Holloway entered from Thomas's old study carrying a slim folder. Monica stared at her. Derek went completely still. Janet took the empty chair at the end of the table and placed the folder in front of her. Good evening, she said. Elaine asked me to explain a few things about what happens next. Janet opened the folder without any hurry. That seemed to unsettle Monica more than anger would have. She placed 3 envelopes on the table, 1 in front of me and 2 between Derek and Monica. The first document, Janet said, is Elaine's formal revocation of the power of attorney you have been referring to. Derek looked at me. Mom, you did not have to do that. Apparently I did. Janet continued. Copies have already been prepared for the institutions that may need them. Elaine has also provided written notice that no family member is authorized to make decisions regarding her real estate, finances, housing, or personal property, unless she gives specific written permission. Monica leaned back. This is unbelievable. We were helping her. Janet did not respond to the accusation. She simply opened the second envelope. Oak Meadow has been informed that Elaine did not authorize the reservation. The arrangement has been canceled. The real estate office has also been notified that there will be no walkthrough, no listing preparation, and no communication through anyone other than Elaine or me. Monica turned toward me. You called all these people without even talking to us? I held her gaze. You called them without talking to me. She looked away. Janet slid the third sheet across the table. It was not a legal document. It was a list I had written that afternoon. I read it aloud myself. The garage code has been changed. The spare key Derek had is no longer authorized for use. My online banking passwords have been changed. My email password has been changed. My utility accounts have new security questions. My medical emergency contacts have been updated. Any future appointment involving my home must come directly through me. Derek stared at the paper. You changed your emergency contact? Yes. From me. For now. His face fell, and for a moment I saw the boy who used to leave his baseball glove on my kitchen floor. That memory hurt. It did not change my decision. Monica pushed the list back across the table. Elaine, this is humiliating. You are treating us like strangers over one misunderstanding. I looked at her. A misunderstanding happens by accident. You printed labels. She stopped moving. I continued. You reserved a room. You hired movers. You contacted a realtor. You asked a contractor about my kitchen. You told people I needed help making decisions. None of those things happened by accident. Derek spoke quietly. We were worried about you. Then you should have talked to me. We thought you would say no. I would have. The answer came easily now. And that was mine to say. Janet closed the folder. There was nothing dramatic about the sound, but it seemed to end something. Monica stood first. So what happens now? She asked. Nothing, I said. That is the point. Nothing happens to my house, my belongings, or where I live unless I decide it does. Derek remained seated another moment. Mom, I never thought you could not take care of yourself. I looked at him carefully. No. You thought you could make the decision faster than I could stop you. He did not argue. When they finally stood to leave, I walked them to the front door. Derek reached into his pocket and placed the old spare key on the entry table without being asked. Monica watched him, then walked outside. I closed the door after them and turned the deadbolt. I did not feel victorious. I felt awake. For years, Derek had been allowed into every practical corner of my life because I trusted him. He had mistaken access for authority. I had mistaken family involvement for protection. That evening, both mistakes ended at the same table. 11 months later, I stood in the same driveway with a cardboard box at my feet and watched another white moving truck turn onto the street. This time I smiled before it even stopped. A great deal had changed since that Sunday evening. Derek and I had spoken carefully at first, mostly by telephone. Monica kept her distance. I did not punish them, and I did not pretend nothing had happened. Trust returned in smaller pieces than it had been lost. During those months, I also learned something about myself. I had fought so hard to keep control of my house that I almost confused control with staying there forever. The truth was simpler. The stairs had become annoying. The yard took more time than I wanted to give it. 3 bedrooms were more space than I needed. But those facts were mine to consider. They were not permission for someone else to decide my future. In March, I started looking at townhouses around Charlotte. I took Sheila with me to several showings because she had strong opinions about kitchens and absolutely no interest in managing my life. In May, I found a 2-bedroom townhouse less than 15 minutes from the public library, with a small patio, a first-floor primary bedroom, and a walking trail nearby. I made the offer myself. Janet reviewed the documents. I signed them at her office with my own pen. Then I spent 6 weeks deciding what to take. Thomas's cedar desk came with me. So did the blue armchair from the den and the dining table where our family had celebrated so many holidays. I donated boxes of things I no longer wanted. I chose every box. I labeled every box. Nothing said estate sale. When the truck stopped in front of the house, the driver's door opened and Graham Pierce stepped down. He looked at me, then at the neatly packed boxes visible through the front doorway. Recognition spread across his face. Mrs. Prescott, he said. I was wondering if that was you. It is. He walked up the driveway carrying a clipboard, almost exactly as he had 11 months earlier. Sheila was standing beside me with 2 cups of coffee. Please tell me you know about this one, Graham said. I laughed. It was the first time that memory had felt light enough to laugh about. I know about it. He held out the paperwork. And you scheduled it? I did. And you want us to take these belongings to the address listed here? I read the townhouse address once more before signing. Yes. Every last box with a green label. Graham nodded toward his crew. Then we can get started. The first thing they carried out was Thomas's cedar desk. I stood on the porch and watched them wrap it carefully in a moving blanket. No one rushed me. No one explained what was best for me. No one told me where I would sleep that night. Derek arrived around noon to help with the smaller things I had kept aside. He did not ask for a key to the new place. He simply carried a lamp to my car and said, "The townhouse really is nice, Mom." I know. He looked toward the moving truck. I should have asked. I knew exactly what he meant. Yes, I said. You should have. That was enough. By late afternoon, the old house was nearly empty. I walked through each room one final time, touching the kitchen counter, the dining room doorway, and the railing Thomas had repaired years ago. Leaving was emotional, but it did not feel like being removed. There is a difference. Outside, Graham waited beside the truck. Ready? He asked. I locked the front door and placed the key in my purse. Yes. 11 months earlier, that same word had been taken out of the process completely. Now it belonged to me again. I climbed into my car, entered my new address into the navigation system, and drove away before the moving truck, not behind it. Subscribe to EverNest Stories for more emotional family betrayal stories, inheritance secrets, and mother's justice. And watch the next story on screen now.